You said in March that you would go to East Palestine, Ohio. You came here. How come you haven't gone to East Palestine yet?
Well, I haven't had the occasion to go to East Palestine. There's a lot going on here, and I just haven't been able to break. I was thinking whether I'd go to East Palestine this week, but I then was reminded I've got to go literally around the world. I'm going from Washington to India to Vietnam and so it's going to be a while.
Well, I haven't had the occasion to go to East Palestine. There's a lot going on.
Wow.
President Biden says he will visit the train derailment site in East Palestine. However, he did not say when that would happen. At a luncheon with Senate Democrats yesterday, he told reporters that he would be out there at some point.
That was 183 days ago, and he still hasn't stepped foot in the town.
I hear the train a-coming. It's rolling around the bend. And I ain't seen the sunshine. I don't know when. I hear the train a-coming. It's rolling around the bend. And I ain't seen the sunshine.
People living in eastern Ohio evacuated their homes last week following a train derailment and chemical spill that sent toxic chemicals into the air.
Well, nearly 2 weeks after a toxic train derailment that happened in Ohio, residents of this small community that were impacted, they're frustrated and they're scared.
They sure are. Many of them attended a town hall meeting last night where they voiced their concerns over health and safety. A lot of questions here.
A lot of anger and distrust coming from that meeting, where there continues to be growing fear over what's lurking in the soil and water of East Palestine.
Tell us the truth.
I'm not stupid. None of us are. Don't play us.
Those who live in East Palestine, Ohio, say they don't trust that it's safe to come home and that health risks are over. It's been almost 2 weeks since their town was impacted by a Norfolk Southern train derailment of 50 train cars. On board were toxic and potentially carcinogenic chemicals that spilled or were burned off.
Oh, absolutely. I will not live in this town. I will be moving.
First, I want to dive in on a statement that your office released earlier today. You said that there is no detection of contaminants in raw water from the 5 wells that feed into East Palestine's municipal water system. The Ohio EPA is confident that the municipal water is safe to drink. Are you confident enough, sir, that you yourself would drink it?
Absolutely. If I was there right now, I would drink it.
Hey guys, so I'm here at Leslie Run, and there's dead worms and dead fish all throughout this water. So, something I just discovered is that if you scrape the creek bed, it's like chemical is coming out of the ground. Can you come here and let me just show this to people. I don't know if you're going to see this on camera, but watch this. Just see that chemical pop out of the creek. This is disgusting. And the fact that we have not cleaned up the train crash, the fact that these chemicals are still seeping in the ground is an insult to the people who live in East Palestine. Do not forget these people. We've got to keep applying pressure. That's how we're going to fix this problem.
Wow.
Look at all that.
Look at it.
It's all in the bottom of the creek bed.
Back there are increasing concerns about the safety for people and animals living near the site of that major train derailment in Ohio. Hundreds were forced to evacuate, and now they're complaining of headaches and sore throats. And what's even worse, some animals are dying. Garrett Tenney joining us now from East Palestine, near the site of that derailment. Garrett, it's been almost 2 weeks. What can you tell us about what's happening there now?
Yeah, 2 weeks and still a lot of questions that are not answered, and that is leading to growing, increasing frustration by the folks who live here. We spoke to a bunch of folks outside the grocery store last night here in East Palestine, and one common thread that we got from those conversations, that there is a real sense of distrust from a lot of folks here for anything that officials at every level have to say about how safe it is to be here. That really goes back to a week ago when this evacuation order was lifted. Officials said at the time that tests showed that it was safe, but back then and even now, there are still a number of test results that we are waiting to get back. So a number of folks that we've spoken to, we've heard it from dozens of folks really now, is that they were being told one thing by officials, that it is safe to be here, there is no risk to your health, but in reality, they were living and experiencing something very different with side effects that a lot of these chemicals are associated with. You mentioned the animals that have fallen sick, as well as the more than 3,500 fish that were found dead in the rivers and streams leading up to the Ohio River. There in the Ohio River now is this plume of toxic water that is now working its way down the Ohio River, gradually being filtered out. But that is a concern for a lot of towns. The Ohio River, it provides drinking water to more than 5 million people. That plume is now headed towards Huntington, West Virginia, and officials there and all along the river are closely monitoring this at their water filtration systems, potentially looking at whether or not they're going to need to shut the intake off and get their water from other sources until this works its way through and becomes less of a danger for them there.
Good evening. Well, the train derailment has not only impacted East Palestine, but surrounding communities as well. There's a mysterious item which has shown up outside a Darlington family's home. The Corbins were driving into East Palestine the night the train derailed, saw the fire, and went home. They grabbed items and went to a hotel. Jerry Corbin returned home on his birthday and is still stumped with what he's seeing. Jerry Corbin took me on a tour of his backyard in Darlington. Every so often, you run across a small flake of what looks like ash.
Once you train your eye to it, you start seeing it everywhere because it has a glow to it. It's blue, gray, blue, slate. Very strange.
The ash is paper thin and also very fragile. There are a few pieces left. Sometimes they're a little bit difficult to got one right here. Now, Jerry says when he returned home 6 days after the derailment, his yard was covered with this ash.
I don't know what this is, and I'm getting so aggravated and so frustrated that I don't care if it's hazardous or not. I want it out of my yard.
Corbin doesn't know if the small flakes are from the train fire or the controlled release. He lives less than 1.5 miles from the crash site. His wife puts sticks in the ground to mark the ones she sees.
It's essential that I know what's in it because you have a garden, I plant my garden, I'm going to grow tomatoes, onions, peppers.
The ash still blows around. It's breaking down and getting into the soil. That's a concern. Jerry had half a mason jar, but he's given some to lawyers and the EPA for testing. Nobody has answered what it is.
It's not mine. It belongs to Norfolk Southern. They should come over here and get it out of my yard.
Good evening and welcome to 7 Action News at 11. I'm Carolyn Clifford.
And I'm Dave Llewellyn. Wayne County Executive Warren Evans is outraged, saying he was never notified of the hazardous shipments from the train wreck in East Palestine.
Toxic soil and liquids loaded in Ohio and delivered by trucks to waste sites in Romulus and Van Buren Township without warning.
7 Action News reporter Simon Shakette getting answers tonight on this big communication breakdown.
Visibly frustrated with hazardous waste from Ohio ending up here in Metro Detroit, both county and federal leaders are now demanding accountability.
We weren't told what's going on, and we're getting bits and pieces of sketchy information now, but what I do know is some of this material is already at the landfills.
Outraged beyond words, Wayne County Executive Warren Evans blasting the railroad company and federal leaders behind a decision to transport hazardous materials without warning from a recent train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, to sites in Romulus and Van Buren Township.
Wayne County government not knowing that they're coming, which way they're coming, how safe the trucks are that are coming, is something that has got us all very, very irritated.
The county says 218,000 gallons of vinyl chloride, a serious carcinogen, was already delivered to sites that use deep well injections. We've reached out to the EPA for comment and are awaiting a response. A spokesperson for Eagle, the state's top environmental agency, also issuing a statement. Part of it reads, quote, Norfolk Southern Railroad chose the sites where wastes will be disposed, which also include locations in Texas and Ohio. Eagle will continue to monitor the receipt of Ohio waste at licensed hazardous waste disposal facilities in Michigan to ensure protection for the public and the environment.
Tonight, with the scene being cleaned up, new details about what caused the fiery derailment. Federal investigators saying a preliminary investigation shows an overheated wheel bearing likely to blame.
This was 100% preventable.
The NTSB says the train passed over 2 detectors, which showed the bearing was heating up. By the time it hit a 3rd detector, it was 253 degrees above air temperature, triggering an audible alarm to warn the crew, who then slowed and stopped the train.
This is a community that is suffering. This is not about politics. What I care about is figuring out how this happened.
The NTSB chair says there's no evidence the crew did anything wrong. In a statement, Norfolk Southern says our highest priority is the safety of our people and the communities we serve, adding it will continue to support the NTSB's investigation. While today, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg visited for the first time after criticism from some residents that he should have come sooner, demanding the nation's rail operators stop resisting safety measures to cut costs.